Capitalizing on chaos is really it's about how do we become self-led so we can make the best choices for us. When we're in that fight or flight response, we cannot make good decisions. We cannot access our frontal lobe, our executive functioning that does even problem solving, logic, it just goes away. If we're staying true to ourselves, that's when we can find innovation, creativity, and like foster that in our team, which allows us to pivot in that moment versus just getting mad.
Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. I'm already smiling. My face is hurting already because I am so excited about my guest today. He's amazing. He's my coach. I hope you love him as much as I do, but he has some exciting news to share. So, Rob, I know most of the people listening to this podcast already know who you are because I talk about you so much, but let's go back, introduce yourself, tell them who you are and what you're doing today.
Yeah, I'm Rob Kalwarowsky, executive coach, TEDx speaker, and professional speaker. And obviously, right now, just coming out, I am now an author of Capitalizing on Chaos, which is going to be published on August 18th. So grab your copy, Amazon. It's going to be everywhere. So check that out.
I love it. I love it. And so this is new. He's an author now and getting used to that. But I want to talk a lot about leadership. I mean, this is really how I know Rob, is how I got started in leadership really. When I said, how do I become a leader? Okay, we're researching this, we're reading books, we're going into the locker room is what we called it. But really it started before that. Rob, how did you get into this industry? Because you are an engineer, you're in the space, in the pump industry, if you will. Um, how did you become an engineer?
Yeah, so I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I went to MIT. I worked 10 years in heavy industry. So I started my career in mining. Then I worked 5 years consulting across heavy industry. So I've been to, I don't know, 50 to 60 different facilities from diamond mines, gold mines, potash, power plants, um,
All the
manufacturing,
Absolutely all the
basically
places that I want
a
to go
lot of
visit now.
places. Yeah, a lot of places. And then, yeah, and then I ended my engineering career. I was working at a pipeline company. And, throughout that journey, like I really struggled with my mental health throughout that journey. And I worked in my first job, actually, I had a toxic workplace, toxic leader, and it led to me becoming depressed and a suicide attempt in 2013. And it took me a while to find what I needed in terms of help. And that once I started getting a handle on that and I started learning about leadership and doing a lot of therapy and medication and treatment, things started changing for me. And that led to me starting to coach off the side of my desk, um, and then coaching Charli, and then becoming a full time leadership coach. And then that started a whole new journey where I was coaching full time. We were coaching, a few hundred folks every year. And then I started coaching, C suite executives, entrepreneurs, a couple Olympic gold medalists. Actually, one of my clients right now, she's at Miss Universe Canada, so that's pretty fun. Um, and then, yeah, this past year, I'm now on my own, so I'm coaching. Yeah, I'm coaching folks one on one. I'm doing team coaching or workshops. Obviously, I speak, and then now I have a book.
Yeah. So I want to back up a little bit because I was actually talking about that at my training or session. I don't even know what you call it. Anyway, they asked me to speak and I did. But basically, I was telling them about the achiever in us, right? And how you, as an engineer, you like to problem solve, right? That was clear. It was a room full of engineers. I'm like, okay, I know an engineer. who, gave the answer, right? Here is the problem. Here's how you solve it. Here's how you save a ton of money. Here is my A plus report. I'm in school, you get an A plus when you do a good job. You go to work, you give them the best idea out there, and they don't actually implement it. And so that was the catalyst for this, right? Of just like, okay, well, now what do I do, right? I can't be the very best that I want to be as an engineer. And I think that that's probably the case in so many different plants, so many, frustrations out there is like, hey, I know the answer here. You're not listening to me. Um, and it just resonated with me. And I had to use it in my presentation because that I saw it. I saw it, even heard people talking about it, what they were trying to do. And so you're doing this, you've got the experience, even this heartbreaking experience, right? That you can take into leadership. And that's really what you're doing out there and what you've done for so many people that I already know, myself included, is like get out of your own way, right? You can't control what everybody else does, but you can control you. Can you talk a little bit about that part?
That's right. And so that's what the book's about. So capitalizing on chaos is really, it's about how do we become self-led so we can make the best choices for us. And the biggest thing about chaos is it puts us in stress and we get that fight or flight response, right? And you like a quick example for this is like we've all had a time where, we're driving on the highway, we get cut off and we get really mad. We've also all had a time where we get cut off and we're like, whatever, right? That's the difference. Is the time we get mad, we were already stressed out. And so there was a part of us that was sitting there going, ooh, I'm mad. Right? And in the book, I talk about like these 6 different destructive leadership types. And this is based off of research that was done in Sweden about what types of leaders are the ones that don't get us results, that destroy value and destroy people's well-being. And we all have all of those within us. But it's what we really want to cultivate if we want to navigate chaos and actually take advantage of it is that time where we're sitting in the car and we get cut off and we just go, yeah, that's fine. Because, yeah, totally like, we could get a new tariff or we could get a new, like the stock market could tank or, you know, you could be working and like steel price doubles or like whatever of that could happen. But ultimately, if we're staying true to ourselves, that's when we can find innovation, creativity, and like foster that in our team, which allows us to pivot in that moment versus just getting mad.
Right.
And
No,
like
I was
literally our brain shuts out. Like when we're in that fight or flight response, we cannot make good decisions. We cannot access our frontal lobe, our executive functioning that does even problem solving logic. It just goes away.
Yeah, I was thinking about this and kind of one of the examples. I mean, I love your example about the car and driving because we can relate to that. But I was talking about this in the one of the common problems of for women is to they feel like they were getting interrupted in the boardroom or not being heard or these kind of things kind of come up a lot. And I said, when we're in a room full of our girlfriends, we're talking over each other, we're getting interrupted, we're just going, we're having the best time of our lives, just one after the other. And we don't have to be on a list of who's talking first or any of that. So, what is really the problem? What is it that is causing us to be upset in that moment that is not somebody talked over me? That is not the issue. The issue is something bigger, right? You're either wanting your opinion heard, it's very important to you, or something, in your past where you didn't speak up and it's coming back and you didn't know that that was something that is affecting how you show up. And so there's so much there. And I think when we put it in these real examples, like you just did, it makes it real for people. They can see it, they can understand. Yeah, well, sometimes I do get upset when I'm cut off, and sometimes I don't, and see that that is true because you have some other stressor in your life. Something else is bothering you. And somebody, a lot of these personal things, do come to work and your
That's
work
right.
does go home with you, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like we talk in this book about leadership, right? But actually, all of these parts are within our own mind. And for me, like one of the parts is an abusive narcissist, right? And it's like you get stressed out. And like the classic example of this is like Leonardo DiCaprio's role like on Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like it's all about me. I'm going to screw my clients, but they don't need the money. I need the money because I'm better than them, you know? And it's like I have one of those inside my own mind. And when I wasn't doing, when I wasn't achieving, when I wasn't being successful, it wasn't yelling at other people. It was yelling at me. And that's the thing is like this is more than just, yeah, okay, if you lead a team, yeah, that's true. But a lot of it is us and ourselves. And there's this common trope, right? Is like you say things to yourself that you would never say to anybody else. And that's part of where this work needs to start because if you're saying it to yourself, at some point it's going to come out, and that could be your family, that could be your friends, that could be in the work, and then you have those shame moments which we've all had, and it's like I know I don't want you to feel that shame because it's totally normal, but also that's a moment where you can learn to change and grow.
Yeah, and that is true. When you do the work and know how you have control over, how you show up, or if you show up badly, giving yourself some grace and some kindness and learn from that, it does make a difference. So I can say I have been a bad boss. I have absolutely done things that I wish I had not done. And when I'm in that moment and know that and can go back to the person and apologize or make it better or say, I still believe what I was saying, but I should have said it in a different way and I'm sorry that I did that or whatever. But no, like, okay, that was still important to me, but I want to show up better. I want to be able to, say my piece, if you will, in the right type of tone where people can understand it. Even when I was worried about crying, on the stage, I was doing my first empowering conference. I was so like nervous, like I was going to cry because it was so important to me. It was like, okay, well, if I'm going to cry, okay, know that about myself, and I can actually shift and adapt and come back and be able to say what I needed to say. Knowing that that might happen, just thinking about it and being prepared on what you would do in these situations. So how can we
Yeah.
get how can we get prepared for some of this, Rob?
So what I've been using a lot lately is the phrase I'm human. And I use it when I'm feeling stressed out or I'm feeling tired or I'm feeling sad or like unhappy or frustrated or angry or even like when I feel like I'm going to burst, right? And it's like it's a reminder that you're not just this robot that stands up and performs at 100% at all times and you have no feelings and it does like you just stuff it down and move on. Like almost everybody listening to this, I'm sure you were taught as a kid, like just stuff it down and like move on, or don't cry about it, or like these things, right? And it's like, if you just say, hey, I'm human, it just gives you a little release. And you can even use this with folks around you. Like I use it with my wife when I need her to respond to me with love instead of judgment or instead of, something else. And like she's wonderful anyways. And so it's like it's not, but like it doesn't feel like you're like bearing your soul. And so you could use it at work. Like you'd obviously have to teach your folks what that means, but it could be something that you could use at work to just kind of like get back to the fact that like, yeah, you're a person and it's totally normal to feel these things. And yeah, if you were on the phone with your biggest client and they just canceled their contract with you, yeah, you will be mad or frustrated or sad or angry, and it's like totally normal because you lost a big chunk of business. And that's a moment to just remind yourself that, yeah, it is normal. And I can't be expected to be at my best right now because this just happened.
Yeah, I'll give my travelers some advice. I had woken up, I think 3:30 in the morning, one of those super early flights I've been doing to myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, who booked this? Anyway, so all day travel, a delay, a mechanical delay, but you're so happy that they caught and all they had to do was restart. Like they turned it on and off. The plane is what they did, but they had to wait for the mechanic to get out of the bed to come out there and all. Anyway, and so it was all day traveling. And that day I was supposed to do a tour that got canceled. And then that night I was supposed to do networking. And I'm like on my phone about to text, like I'm not coming. Like I am exhausted, right? Like I'm not. Charlie Magic is nowhere to be found. And I just took a minute. I got to my hotel. I laid down on the bed. I gave myself some rest. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do want to go do that. I feel good now. Like I just needed a moment to say, like, you're tired. It's okay that you're tired. It's okay if you don't even go to this. But I did want to, and I did feel better after just taking, 20 minutes to just rest and then get myself back together. But past Charlie, oh, I would have pushed through hurting.
Yeah.
I would have took give me a shot of vodka or something. Let's go. I would have done those things to just keep going, going, going. And so I think the human aspect is real, right? We don't have those superpowers that we wish we did or we pretend to have. Um, and I think that that's what our leaders absolutely need to know because that's how we are able to show up with our best selves.
The one other thing I just want to mention, right, is you talked earlier about folks not being able to speak or not feel or getting cut off and these things, right? These are real things that, women and minorities and I mean, even men, like it can happen in any industry, right? From anyone, because often, um, sometimes the folks who have ascended the most in the organization are the narcissists or the sociopaths. And this is a real stat. So, on average, 1% of the population is a sociopath, which means they don't have any empathy. In executive levels, 3 to 5% of folks are sociopaths. So they do very well at rising in organizations. They do behaviors like they deflect blame, they take credit for things that's not theirs. That's the kind of stuff they do. So I want you to just be aware that if this is happening to you, sometimes you have to just maybe you ask somebody who was in the meeting with you to just confirm, like, hey, is it just me that is thinking of this, or is this really happening? Or if it happens over and over and over again, you notice it's the same person who's doing that to you, then it's not you, it's your environment. And that opens to the question is, one is, do you want to address it? If so, how are you going to address that? Or do you want to be in that environment anymore? Right. And those obviously, there's a lot of, um, each person will have their own context, and context really matters, right? Like, if you have tons of money saved up and, like your family's great and whatever, like you can quit a job without having another one. Now, if you need the health benefits and you don't have much money saved, then yeah, you have to deal with it in a different way. And maybe that's setting boundaries. Maybe that's, you know, these other techniques. But ultimately, like there are toxic environments. And if you start to notice that you're in one, that's then you have to deal with that. And it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah, and when you've done some work on yourself, you start noticing where those toxic environments are. And you're totally right. I'm so glad you brought that up because it sometimes it's not you, and there's not anything that you can coach up. Remember doing so much kind of leadership training and books and podcasts and different things and being like, I actually need a break from growth. Like just I'm tired, like I've grown to the point where I feel, good. Let's just take a little short break. And I think that that also is kind of that human element of like knowing when you can sit when you can rest in the work and be like, this work is good. And then the obstacles in the way, if it's not, like you said, it's a challenge to know, okay, I want to be here. How am I going to deal with this? And make those decisions that align with your core values, right? That you're going to show up in this way. I'm okay with this. And the boundaries you're talking about. I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this, right? And know what those are for yourself, which is that one's hard too, right? Setting boundaries.
Yeah. This is another part of folks, right? Is as you do this work, you will naturally become more confident, more clear, and you will know when people overstep your boundaries, or not necessarily other people, but you will have a better idea of what your boundaries are. And so even the other day, like I'm going to be going to San Francisco to do some work for a tech company out there, and they like I'm going to do a workshop for half a day, and they invited me for like lunch and like an afternoon thing, and then they were like, hey, do you want to also come to dinner? And my first thought was like, oh, I'm going to be wiped out, like I don't think I want to do this. And I just asked my wife, I was like, am I crazy to think that I'm going to be tired and I'm not going to want to have dinner? And she's like, no, I think you're right.
Yep.
And so just say no to the dinner, right? And so, like, it's as you start to know yourself and you start to like have that first inkling, it's totally okay to check. Like, my wife obviously knows me really well, right? And your husband or wife or partner or even close friend will know you. And that's sometimes nice to just bounce a quick question off of them. But you ultimately know, you just need to connect to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you knew you didn't need to do that. You just wanted to
Yeah.
have that confirmation. And that's the thing. It's just like you start to know yourself and not beating yourself up because you don't want to do that too, like that that's not going to set you up for the next day. You're going to be so wiped out from doing all of that that the next day you're not going to show up, right? And so it is, I mean, I talk about this a lot. Managing your energy, especially you're going to have to do a lot of that now that you're on the road with this book tour and the coaching and speaking that you've been doing too. It's like you have to manage your energy so you can show up. You have to manage your schedule and your time. And you think these things aren't important to your staff, it's just important to you. That's not true because if you don't do this, you're going to show up for them the wrong way, right? They're
That's
they're
right.
going to, and you think you can hide it too, don't you? You can't hide it when you're not great. It's just like it's coming through. So I love this about the book, though. Let's talk a little bit about the book and why did you use the phoenix on the cover?
Ultimately, the book is transformation, right? And it's about part of it is we need to understand when we're showing up as a destructive leader. And it's like you almost need to ignite those in order to rise as a better leader and expand. And I went through that personally, right? Is I was an engineer, I was making, $150,000 a year, and yet I wanted to end my life. And I had to really hit a version of rock bottom to rebuild both my psychology, but also now my impact is just massively greater than it was before. Like my TED talk, I never would have done one before. And now it's been seen by over 300,000 folks, right? And it's like I'm speaking and coaching folks across the world who are managing departments of multi thousands of people, um, and it's like, this book, hopefully, thousands of people will buy it and read it and will change. And they're also leading folks, whether that's their families or the folks at work or their businesses. But that's it had to start with that moment of no, 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 I need to change. And then from that, the deconstruction, in order to soar. And that's the journey that all transformation goes on. And that's why I picked the Phoenix for the cover.
Yeah, I love that so much. And when I went on my art spree here, I purchased a phoenix, and so I have a phoenix here, and they're so beautiful, and that's what we want for people. We want that for our leaders and our teams. On the other side of that, it's not easy work. Some of it is very difficult, right? It takes a little while to get through it. But when you are able to see a struggling leader and you can give them the advice that they need or just like see them so the space that they need, right? We talk a lot about that space and creating space for people, and see their transformation. I don't think there's anything better than that.
It's like this journey, right? Like we talk about it as, personal transformation and we talk about impact, but it's also like you will feel more fulfilled. You will feel happier. Your business will do better, right? Like I had a client last year, we worked together for 6 months and he went through literally the steps that are in this book. And his business, when he came to start coaching with me, they were stuck at $3 million for 3 years. And he was working basically all the time. His wife was pregnant to have his third child, and he wasn't spending much time at home because he was always at the office trying to fix everything. And they were 50 people, and they were stuck, and he was frustrated. He didn't know why they weren't scaling. He was working all the time. Every vacation he would go on, he would just work the entire vacation. And on the other side, and where he is now, his business is going to make $15 million this year. They've grown to, I think, 150 people. They he now, when he goes on vacation, he does not check his phone. It's all being managed. He's not micromanaging people. He's more free. He's spending more time with his family. He's happier, and it's like the transformation is night and day. And it's like it happens not just in this way that, oh yeah, you'll feel better, but it's also you feel better and your business is better and you're getting more time. It's like it impacts everything. And that's the really cool part about it.
Yeah, that weight is gone. That weight is removed. The weight that you don't even know this on you, and that's really beautiful to spend the time on it. Right, our time is precious, and our leaders. If we can, if we, I told someone, if we could just had some little extra time to think, imagine what we could do. Right, and so that's exciting. I'm excited for him, and that y'all got to meet and go through that together, and see somebody thriving on the other side of that. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know before I let you off? I know the book tour, and well, you got to get the book, right? First of all, he's just given us a great example of why to get the book, and change your life, change your business, change, and bring joy into what you're doing. But what else do you want them to know?
Yeah, August 18th, the book will be published. If you go to robkalwarowsky.com, you'll find the links to buy the book. Or, I mean, obviously, it's going to be on Amazon. The audio book will be slightly delayed a bit. It's in production right now,
Is
but
it going to be
that'll be
you?
coming
Are
out
you
soon.
reading it?
No, no, no. I
Oh,
hired
okay.
someone to
I
do
was
it.
like, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. But that'll be, either mid-September or October, but that's okay. And yeah, I mean, I'll be in a bunch of cities. So I'm going to San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, Boston, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa, and Atlanta, and potentially Houston. So if
If
you're in those cities, yeah, just go to robkalvarowski.com and sign up for the newsletter, because there'll be some events that you'll be able to come, get a book signed, hear me talk. Or if you're a company out there and you're in one of those cities, if you buy 50 books, I will do a talk for you, and that's it. No speaker fee, no travel fees. I will do it for you. So, yeah, that's the opportunity out there. And yeah, for folks, I mean, that's it. Like, buy the book, make it happen, and I'm always here. So you're always welcome to reach out if you ever have any questions anytime.
Awesome. And y'all, when he says he's always there, that's true. I have known Rob for 5 years now, close to, if not. And he was my coach. I did go through his program, but we're still connected. We're still doing things, and it's so wonderful to see my community that gets to have access to what you teach all the time, but also what you taught in me too, and put that mirror up so I could
And
see
now what
myself.
you teach.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We both learned. We both learned and went through that. And it's really holding that mirror up for somebody else. And I won't forget that. And I hope that y'all will. I'll put the link in there so y'all can go to buy the book. But follow Rob, and if y'all are in one of those places, go meet him. Tell him that you heard about him on the podcast. Wouldn't that be
That's right.
cool? Oh, well. Anyway, share this episode. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, be empowering.